So thank you so much for the chance to present here today, and our thanks to all of you for coming. Yes, I am founder and CEO of Liquidtext. Stephen, co-founder, is also on the line. What we want to do today is walk you through, again, a few modules, just going into some of the basics of Liquidtext and a sneak peek of a couple of the more advanced features as well. We know that there's folks on the line who this is their first time ever hearing about us, and there's folks who are already veteran users. So we're going to try to cover a little bit of, again, the basics and some of the more advanced things, and hopefully it'll be interesting for everyone. So to begin with, just to set the context for anyone who's really new to this, what ultimately is Liquidtext? Liquidtext is a seamless integration of reading and note-taking. It's for anyone who needs to read and understand long, complicated documents. So it is really uniquely optimized and tailored to the needs of all of you on this call right now. By the end of this webinar, you should feel comfortable using Liquidtext to review documents for trial prep, to find facts and arguments in court, and things like that. So to start with, I want to start by giving you an introduction to maybe the most basic part of Liquidtext. This is a little bit for folks who are maybe getting ready to start using the product itself. And we'll just start with this. We're going to start with creating a new Liquidtext project. So what we're going to talk about here is how you create a project from one document, how you create a project from several documents, how you add more documents to a project later on, and how you import documents from the web. So with that, let's head over to Liquidtext. Okay, so I happen to be doing this demo on my iPad, but Liquidtext, of course, is terrific on your traditional Windows PC, your Mac, your iPad, whatever you're using. So in general, the things I'm going to show you are pretty much the same across devices, but there's a handful of things that are different. And in those cases, I'll just draw those out. Okay, so this is, again, the Liquidtext home screen. Each of these tiles that you see here represents a Liquidtext project. Each Liquidtext project can contain anywhere from one document and a couple highlights, all the way to tens of thousands of documents and thousands of pages of notes. In general, one of these projects is kind of meant to represent one real-world project, for example, even an entire case. So how do you create a new project? Well, in Liquidtext, you create a new project by importing some documents. That's always the way you start, by importing some documents, or one or more documents. How do you import? Well, we have a few different options over here on the side. You can open a file, and there it'll bring up the standard file picker dialog box, and you can just select some files from there. You can create a new project with documents based on pictures. So for example, if you would scan something in or want to scan something in. We also have integrations with things like iManage, which you may or may not be using. But one particularly fun one is Open Web Page. So for example, I can create a pop-up web browser right here. And let's say open Google's Terms of Service and just click Import, and it'll bring this right in as a new document. But maybe the most common way that people create a new project is just by drag and drop. So let me show you that. Just going to bring up the Apple file picker here. And let's say, for example, we want to create a new project based on this deposition transcript. Well, I can just drag that right into Liquidtext and give it a second. And there we are. It's created a new project. Now we're in the Liquidtext editor screen. I'll give you the very quick tour of it. Over here on the left is your documents list. These are all the documents in this project. Since I just dragged one in, there's only one. In the middle is the document reading area with the document or documents I'm working on now. And on the right is the workspace. This is where I'll take my notes and build my arguments. Okay, we'll just close this project here and go back to the home screen again. And we'll bring back up the file picker. Now, let's suppose you want to make a project that has more than just one document. Well, you can always add documents as you go, but if you already know in advance that you want to create a project from, let's say, 5 or 6 documents, you can do that. So let's say I just select these 3 documents. I want to create a new project. I just drag all 3 of these together right into Liquidtext. And it'll say, would you like to create one project or a few? I'll select create a single project. And you see, there we are. It just created a new project with those 3 documents that I had selected. Now, let's say later on, I want to add more documents to my project. That's really easy too. There's a big Add Document button right here. I can just click this and select the source from the documents I want to add. But of course, in many cases, the easiest way, again, is just going to be to use drag and drop. So for example, if I want to take this 4th document here and drag this in to the project, I just literally drag it right in. And you see, it gets added to my documents list and comes up right here. So again, the idea is creating a new Liquidtext project is really easy. You just bring some documents, you just bring 1 or more documents into the app and right here in the home screen, and Liquidtext will create a new project. And then as you go on, you can keep adding more documents anytime you need to. Okay, so with that little bit of starting point out of the way, let me just pause there for a moment in case anyone has any questions about creating a Liquidtext project, and then we'll go on. No? Okay, great. Now let's go a little bit deeper and go into an actual simple scenario. So in this case, we're going to take a simple trial prep inspired scenario that I'll walk you through. We're going to be talking about, what I'm going to try to teach you a little bit about here is, actually we covered this already, but to teach you a little bit about the Liquidtext editor, how it's arranged, teach you about creating excerpts, teach you about Inklinks, talk a little bit about doing a search, working with multiple documents at once, and doing an export. So with that, let's go back to Liquidtext. So again, as I said, each of these tiles represents a project. Let's open one of the projects that we already have. In this case, we're going to open the McCaffrey stem cell case project. Okay. So just to reiterate, over on the left, we have all of the documents we need for this project. In this case, I've already imported them earlier. You'll also notice that I've organized these documents into folders. This is really easy. You can just drag and drop your documents between folders, and you can right-click to have the Add New Folder option, all the standard things you would expect. As I mentioned, this, of course, is the document reading area. This is the workspace where you take your notes and build your argument. And just going all the way to the right, this little guy over here, this is the workspace sidebar. Here, you can actually add more workspaces to your current project, but we'll talk about that more in a minute. Okay, so what's the narrative for this part of the demo? So let's say you have a client who had a novel medical procedure done, but unfortunately, the procedure didn't quite work out. Instead of relieving her problems, it just left her with some inflammation. And now your client blames the surgeon and says he must have done a poor job. But the surgeon says, no, your client just was not a very good candidate for the procedure, and he warned her of that in advance. She knew what she was going in for. So we want to try to figure out what's going on, and we're going to do it in Liquidtext. Okay. So my first question is, was our client actually a good candidate for this procedure? Well, to find out, first, I'm going to go to the text box button here, and I'm going to create a text box. I'm going to write, was she a good candidate? And I'll just make this red because it's important there. And so you see, I've just added a little text box title heading to the workspace. Now, to find out, let's read this article that I brought up here from a regulatory agency and see what they have to say. Well, as I read through it, I see a very important point here. It says most adults are good candidates for this type of procedure. So I'm just going to select this text. Now, in a typical document reader, in your typical PDF reader, what would you do? Well, you would highlight this or you'd add a comment. But the problem is, all highlighting does is it tells you that you need to come back to this again later. But in this case, we don't want to just come back to it later. We want to build an argument around this. So instead of highlighting it, I'm going to drag it like this out into my workspace, you see. And so now you see I'm mixing bits of my own thoughts with bits of the original text, just like that. Now, you'll notice there's this little white arrow here. What is that white arrow? That is your magic home button. Wherever you are, you can click this little white arrow and instantly get right back to your source. This is really powerful because it means you're never more than one tap away from the sources, the context behind your notes. Okay, So continuing on, it mentions over here that there's a figure a few pages down that provides a more detailed algorithm. Well, I'd really love to compare the text with the figure, but they're on different pages. So how could I possibly compare them? Well, one of the great things about Liquidtext is we make it easy to see all of the most important information for you together. So we actually make it easy to compare two different pages. I can actually pinch the document together like this to bring the text and the diagram side by side. Now, how did I do that? Well, I happen to be using an iPad. So with any touchscreen device, you can just literally put your fingers on the screen and squeeze to bring the document together like that. If you happen to be using, say, a Windows PC with a mouse and keyboard, no problem at all. You just position the mouse right here, hold Shift, and scroll the scroll wheel, and it'll do exactly the same thing. Okay, so now that I see these two together, I conclude that this diagram actually is going to be very useful for me. So what should I do? Well, I'd like to bring this into the workspace as well. So I'll just select the diagram and drag it out into the workspace like this. I'll make it a little bit smaller and add it to my notes. And so you see, I'm starting to build the backbone of my argument here in the workspace, mixing my own thoughts, text from the document, images from the document, and so on. Okay, now we'll uncollapse this area. I just click this little blue bar here, and it'll uncollapse. And now let's find out, was our client actually a good candidate or not? So to find out, we'll go back to our documents list here on the left, and we'll go to her patient medical record. We can bring this up just by clicking it, and there we are. So as we scroll down, we see she has a few pre-existing conditions. She has diabetes, hypertension, and arthritis. So if I look through the algorithm here, if we follow it through, it seems so she's not immune compromised, no history of carcinomas. She does have high blood pressure. And so our client is squarely in the closely monitored category. Okay, that's really important to note. I know opposing counsel is going to argue that she's not in the closely monitored category. So I'm just going to, again, click our little text box button here. And I'll make a little text box saying she is in closely monitored. But again, since opposing counsel is going to argue against this, I need to do more than just note this fact. I need to be able to justify it. But the problem is the justification is over here in her medical record. Well, how do I bridge these two, right? Over here we have my notes, over here we have a document. How do I connect between these? Well, one of the great things in Liquidtext is that you can connect anything to anything just by drawing a line. So using my mouse or my pen, I simply, again, I'll just want to be in pen mode here, right? Just click the pen icon. And then I can just draw a line right from the document into my notes. And look what happens. Liquidtext creates an Inklink, a living line between my document and my notes. What this means is that wherever I am, even if I'm in a different document, I can just click this link and instantly get right back to what it points to. This means I'm never more than one tap away, not just from my context, but from the justifications behind my arguments. And I'll tell you that in practice, this Inklink capability is one of the most magical and one of the most loved by our customers. We've had folks actually tell us, one attorney in particular, describe how Inklinks in particular let him find facts so much faster that it gave him a material advantage in the courtroom over the counterparty. So Inklinks are definitely your friend. Okay, so now we know what category our client is in. Let's try to figure out, why did the procedure fail? So we'll scroll over here and we'll go back to our documents list. And we're going to go to our depositions folder here. And we're going to open the surgeon's deposition transcript, just like this right here. Okay, so here's the surgeon's deposition transcript. I went through this earlier today, and I already highlighted some of the key steps in how the surgeon performed the procedure. I also pulled out excerpts for those key steps here into the workspace using the same process that you saw a moment ago. So the first thing I'd like to do is get an overview of all these key steps. But again, it's hard to get an overview. These are all on different pages. How can I see the bigger picture? Well, one of the great things with Liquidtext, again, we make it easy to see the most important information at once. Click on the highlight view button right here. Once you click on that, you can now just squeeze the document and all of your highlights come together. Squeeze apart for more context, squeeze together to see more of an overview. So again, how am I doing that? Well, if I happen to have a literal touch screen like an iPad or something, I just put my fingers on the screen, squeeze together, or squeeze apart. If I happen to be doing this on a more traditional mouse and keyboard-based Windows PC, I just hold down the Shift key while scrolling the mouse wheel, and it does exactly the same thing. So let's take a look at a few of these. This point in purple looks like it might help us. I'll just put my fingers around there, squeeze apart to see some context, but no, it does not look like that's going to help us. Squeeze back together again. So this is an incredibly powerful visualization for seeing the most important information with as much context as you need, but unfortunately, it's not revealing any obvious mistakes on the part of the surgeon here. So what could be going on? Well, maybe I should take a look at the lead nurse's deposition transcript as well. Maybe there'll be something in there that'll shed more light on the case. So I'd like to compare these two documents in parallel. How can I do that? Well, the easiest way in Liquidtext is you can just take the lead nurse's deposition transcript and drag it out, you see. And I can drag it here or here to bring it up side by side with the surgeon's. See, just like that. Now we have the two transcripts together. Now, if you happen to be using, say, a larger screen device, you might want to switch the orientation. So the two documents are side by side, but on the small iPad screen, I find it a little easier to have them stacked vertically. Either way, very easy. All right, so now looking at these two documents together, I see some more useful ideas here, and I think I may have found something that kind of helps us. I see that the surgeon claims that this procedure took 15 minutes. And at the same time, I see the lead nurse claims the procedure took about 10 minutes. That's a pretty substantial discrepancy there. And that might actually explain what's going on. Maybe the surgeon rushed through the procedure. So the first thing I want to do is I want to capture this discrepancy. I want to note this in some way. But it's tricky because these are two completely different documents. How can I do that? Well, one of the great things about Liquidtext is, again, you can connect anything to anything. So I can just note this conflict here. I'll say there's a conflict, and then I'll just draw an arrow from one document into the other. And so you see what's happened. It's created now an Inklink, not between my document and my notes, but between one document and another, right? Look at that. So what this means in practice is that, let's say I'm in court, we're discussing the surgeon's deposition transcript, opposing counsel mentions that the gel was left on for 15 minutes, and I say, well, I remember that it wasn't. I remember that the nurse said something else. I don't have to try to find her comments. I don't have to try to remember where I saw them. The link I need is right in front of me. I just click it and instantly get back to where the nurse contradicts the surgeon. Wonderful. Now, I'd like to also bring these into the workspace as well. So I'll just go up here and select and drag out an excerpt of what the surgeon said here. And I'll go and drag out an excerpt as well for what the nurse said and bring these both into the workspace. Now, as you recall, I can always click these little arrows on the side to get back to the source. I can actually even click two of them at once here. So I'll just activate both, and you see it brings up both of the documents at the same time. So I can, even just starting from the workspace, I can really easily find this conflict again, because it's going to be very important for my case. Okay, terrific. So I think we're putting together a good argument, but it's still just my speculation that a timing mistake like this could actually cause the procedure to fail. I have no real evidence of that yet. So maybe we should go take a look at the phase 3 clinical trials for this procedure. So I go back to the documents list, open the phase 3 trials, and let's see if they shed some light on this. Now, there's a lot of information in clinical trials, but I'm just curious, did any of the participants in the trials have the same problem as our client, namely inflammation? So I want to do a search. Now, Liquidtext makes it really easy to do a search. Of course, you can just click the search button up here, but we know you're going to want to do a lot of them. So you can actually just start typing, INFLAMMATION. And you see, as soon as I start typing, Liquidtext brings up a context-sensitive dialog box with several different options for what it can do with what I just typed. So we can search the workspace, we can search all the documents, or we can search the current document. Well, I just want to search the current document, so I'll just press return. And look at that. It searches the document, and it found 5 results. Now, I'd like to see these results together so I can identify which ones might be the most useful for my purposes. But how do I do that? Well, again, it's just like with the highlights. All you have to do is just squeeze the document together, and all of your search results come together. Again, squeeze apart for more context, squeeze together to get that overview. So just to note again, if you happen to be doing this on a physical touch screen, you just can literally put your fingers on the screen and pinch. If you're doing this again on a Windows machine with a mouse and keyboard, you can simply use hold down the Shift key while scrolling the mouse wheel, and you'll get the same thing done. Okay, so let's take a look at this search result and see if this will help. I'll just put my fingers around there and squeeze apart. Nope, that one's not going to help me. Let's take a look at the next one. Yes, this one's definitely going to help. It turns out there was someone in the trials who had the same problem as our client because the surgeon messed up the timing. So we'll just turn off search mode here, and I'll select this, pull this into the workspace, and I'll also highlight it red. You see the source becomes red as well. All right, so now I think we're putting together a pretty reasonable argument. I think it's time to write up our conclusion. So I'm going to go back to the workspace, click the text box button, and we'll write up a conclusion. I'll start it in a little larger. I will say, surgeon made a mistake on the timing. Okay, a little bit of a simple conclusion, but enough for now. So since this conclusion is dependent on these excerpts that I pulled out earlier, I'd like to show that. But how do I do that? Well, you remember earlier how I could connect my document to my notes by drawing a line, or I could connect my documents to my documents by drawing a line, but I can also connect my notes to my notes. So watch this. I just draw lines connecting them, and now I'm starting to build a mind map in my workspace. So these are very short connections, of course, but if they were longer, I could simply click one end and it would take me immediately to whatever is on the other end. This is great when you start having larger, more complex workspaces and systems of notes. Okay, so with all of this, I think it's time to put all this together into a nice Word document, get it all arranged and organized, and get it sent off to the court. So how do I go from this to a Word document? It's actually very easy. Over on the top right in Liquidtext, you'll see the Send button. I just click this, and we have quite a few different options for sending things. The first option is to send a complete Liquidtext project file. That includes all of your documents and all of your notes in this whole project. You could send that to a colleague, for example, who's going to collaborate with you. Besides that, we have sending a PDF file, where we can take all of the documents and your workspaces and flatten them into a PDF file that can even have active links within it. But in this case, we're going to use Notes Outline. Notes Outline takes all of my highlights and all of my notes and organizes them into a nice linear document that I can send to Microsoft Word with, let's find Word here. Here we are. With one click, right? And so see, now we have this in Word. We can reorganize it, reformat it into the final form that's needed for the court, and we can send it right off. All right. Let me pause there. So this is Module 2. What we covered was working with the Liquidtext editor and documents list. We talked about excerpts and Inklinks and searching. I showed you how to work with multiple documents and view them side by side. And finally, how you can export your materials as a docx file. Let me pause here for a moment before going on to the next module, in case anyone has any questions.
We have a couple here. We've got a few more general ones that I'll leave to the end of the session.
Sure.
But I think these ones relate to what you were just speaking about. First one is, can you rotate individual pages?
Great question. Yes, you can. The way you rotate pages is you'll notice for each document, there's this little 3 dots. You just click the 3 dots, and one of the options is rotate pages. And here you can simply select the pages that you want to rotate, select rotation direction, and click rotate.
Right. The next one is it possible to pin a document when you have 2 side by side so that one document can function as notes that stay put and links, but also links to the second document?
We don't have a specific way to pin a document yet, but you can control where documents appear. So for example, let's bring up these 2. So if I wanted to, let's say, leave this document in place, but just change what's up here, I could, for example, so let's say I wanted to bring up this product manual here, I could just drag this right here, and now this document, this part of the document view is replaced with the new one, or drag in the nurse's deposition, and now it's replaced with this. So we don't have an explicit pin yet. It's something we've been thinking about adding actually, and we're probably going to in an update to the UI in the near future. But right now, you would want to do it manually like this.
Gotcha. The next one is, other than pulling the passages out into your workspace, is there a way to navigate through the sections you have highlighted?
Oh, yes, of course. So again, let's let me just clear this out to make it a little bit cleaner. So if you've highlighted sections, navigating through them is really easy. One of the easiest ways, again, is to just use highlight view. With highlight view on, you just squeeze the document together and all of the highlighted sections come right together. If you say, I want to go to this one, you simply squeeze a part around it, and now there you are. Now, something else that you might want to do, and I think let's see, I think this is in the next section, is you can make bookmarks as well. So in cases where all you need is a simple bookmark, we have that, and I'll demonstrate that for you in a minute.
Great, and we've just got one more question for this section. Is there a way to link the Inklink to particular text within a text box so that the Inklink doesn't move if you type additional words into or resize the text box?
That's a great question. For Inklinks, not right now, but we definitely know that's a high priority for us. We're excited to be adding that soon. But what you can do right now is you can actually create a text-based link, and I'll show you how you do that. So let's say you wanted a link to this piece of text right here. We'll just do copy link. Let's say my link is, just paste that in. And see, now we have a text-based link. And this text-based link isn't quite as pretty as an Inklink, but it works exactly the same way. You just click it, and it takes you right back and flashes the text that it refers to. And again, this works, of course, across documents. And this actually can even work across projects and even across applications. So for example, this text-based link, if I actually went to Word here, and let's just say we create a new document, and I paste that in. Well, let's make it a little easier. We'll go to something else. So if I go to some other document in Liquidtext, and then go to Word and click this link, it'll take me back to Liquidtext, take me to the relevant point, and even highlight the exact piece of text that that link refers to. So again, we'll be adding this sort of fixed inline functionality for the visual Inklinks shortly, but for right now, these text-based links can be very helpful.
Great. We've just had one more come in that relates to this section before we move on. Can pages of a document be paged through like a book rather than scrolling down through a long document?
So right now, no. This is very, particularly because of the whole pinching it together thing. We're very dependent on the vertical scrolling motion. But I will say that if you have a traditional keyboard, your page up and page down will definitely take you one page at a time, make it very quick. But again, we're very open to the ideas. And so if you guys feel like a direct horizontal scroll would be useful, it's certainly something we can consider adding in the future.
Great, thanks for that. Good to move on to the next segment.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Excellent. Sure. Okay. So now let's go on to the third module. This one I call Going Deeper. Here we're going to talk a little bit about sharing. Well, we actually covered sharing projects already, but we'll talk about bookmarks. We'll talk about creating multiple workspaces. We'll talk about tagging, and we'll talk about tagging with highlight view. So it should be very interesting. This one's going to be a lot shorter, but I think you all will like it. So the first one is bookmarks. So as one of you all was asking a moment ago, are there other ways to navigate through a document quickly? Well, the excerpts are terrific, but sometimes you want a navigational affordance that doesn't require you to actually pull something out like this. And for that, bookmarks are your friend. And the way you can add a bookmark in Liquidtext is really easy. Any piece of text, you can simply select it and then just click the bookmark button. And you'll see right over here, and let me just note that the way you access this is in the document sidebar. You have the Documents tab and the Outline tab. Under the Outline tab, it can list your bookmarks and your table of contents items, whatever you prefer. In this case, we have no table of contents, so it's simply listing the bookmarks. And you'll see when I create a bookmark, it makes that little bookmark icon there. And as I go on, I'll create a couple more. And there we have it. And you see, it has the bookmark, it gives it a page name by default with a little preview of the text that the bookmark was a part of underneath it. And of course, you can always rename these as well. Also, if you want, you can, if you don't feel like selecting text, you can always just scroll to any page you like and just click Add Bookmark, and it'll create it for the pages, the current page as a whole. And of course, you can then just jump between these. So this is bookmarks. The next point is multiple workspaces. So we'll just shrink the document a little here so we can focus on the workspace. So in the demo that I showed you, this was a very, very simple demonstration. So everything that we had was on this one infinite scrolling canvas called the workspace. But in a real world situation, especially an actual case, you're going to have a lot more information than this. You might have hundreds of pages of notes. So what do? Well, over here on the right again, we have the workspace sidebar. I can just click over here and I can create a new workspace. So let's say we create a new workspace for a hearing, and we'll call this Hearing 1, for lack of a better name. And see, now it's created a fresh workspace that's part of this same project. I'll give it a different color here. Maybe we'll make it blue and college rule it. And now you see, I can just switch back and forth between these two. I can also open them up together. So for example, I'll bring out the Hearing 1 workspace. And for instance, I can take some of my materials and just start dragging them right in from the first workspace right into this one, or drag materials straight from the document directly into this new workspace as well. So the idea is, as your cases or as your projects in Liquidtext become more complex, it's very easy to have additional pages of notes, so you don't have to try to cram everything into just a single workspace. Okay. The next point I'll mention is tagging. Close this here. We'll go to our tagging project. And let me talk a little bit about tags. Tags is a really powerful feature of Liquidtext that a lot of folks don't really know much about. So it's great to have a chance to demonstrate it for you. So let's go back to our surgeon's deposition transcript over here. Let's see, is this the one I wanted? No, lead nurses. Okay, to the lead nurse's deposition transcript. Now, in a slightly more realistic scenario, as I go through this deposition, I might want to tag different parts of it in different ways. So for example, let's say this piece of text here was the person I was deposing was very emotional, and I want to note that. I can actually have tags for emotion, facts, admissions, and whatever I like. Maybe I'll create a new tag. I'll click more over here and say that I need to review this. And so you see, it's highlighted it and created a new little tag for this review. So as I go on, I can again simply select some text, click tags, select the tag that I want, or create a new one again. So the idea is this is actually, you can go through this quite quickly and just start selecting things and tagging them appropriately. Now, besides tagging text, you can also tag the items in your workspace. So you see, I've already gone through here and added tags to a few of these. To do this, you simply select the item, select tags, and pick the tag or tags that you want from the tags list, or create a new one. If you want to see an overview of all the tags in the project, you can just click the three dots on the top right, and you'll notice we have the tag manager. Select that, and you can see all of your tags. You can change their color, you can categorize them, delete them, add more, and so on. Now, one of the great things about tagging is that you can search based on tag later on. So let me give you an example of that. Let's take this document. So as you saw, we have a few different tags here. Let's suppose I want to find everything in this document that is a point when there was a lot of emotion going on. So I can go back to highlight view here and watch this. Press and hold it for a moment, and you see it lets me filter based on the tag associated with a highlight. So let's select emotion and then search for tags. And now when I pinch the document, you see all the highlights come together only if they're tagged with emotion. Let's do that again. So let's select and highlight here, or select for a moment. And let's say we only want to find things related to admissions where some critical fact was being admitted to. Again, select it, select search for tags. And now when I pinch, only things tagged with admissions come together. It's a great, very fast way if you want to take notes on, let's say, things that were tagged with just one concept or idea. This is a great way to see them all together so you can find the patterns and find the trends among them. This is also true for the workspace. So this is, again, a very small workspace, but let's say we wanted to find everything that we had pulled out and tagged with emotion. I could simply go to search, select workspace, click tag search, click emotion, and click search for tags. And you see, it finds only the items that in the workspace that have been tagged with emotion. So again, we try to make it really easy to search among your different tags. All right, so let me pause there for a moment and go back. So what we covered here was, we already talked about sharing projects, but we talked about bookmarks. We talked a little about multiple workspaces, tagging, and using highlight view with tags. So are there any questions about this module before we go on?
Most of the other questions that we've gotten are more general, so we might leave those for the end.
Terrific.
Thanks.
Okay. So the last module I want to talk about are the some of the power tools. So we're not going to go as deep into this, but I just want to briefly show you a couple of points here. So we want to talk a little bit about what's called document replacement. We actually already covered the URL links in one of the Q&A. So we're just going to talk briefly about the definition lookup, which is in beta, and the AI tools, which are in beta. So with that, let's go back. All right. So the first point I want to talk about is document replacement. So we have our users, we have our client's medical record here. And let's say we find that, a week later, we discover there's a new version of it that has a bunch of pages that were missing from this one. Well, unfortunately, I've already gone through, I've highlighted, annotated, made links, and so on in this version. If I have a new version, it's going to be a huge pain in the neck because I'm going to have to re-annotate it, highlight it, relink it, and everything. So one of the great features that we added relatively recently is document replacement. You can simply click the three dots here, go to replace document. You can select the new version of this document with additional pages added, and Liquidtext will actually replace the original with the new one, moving all the links and highlights to the correct corresponding pages in the new document. So really handy when, for example, you get a trial bundle and then they give you a new version of the trial bundle with another 1,000 pages, the following week. So the second one, URL links, we talked about that briefly in the Q&A before, but I'll just mention one other thing about URL links. I showed you how you can create a URL to a particular point in a particular document. You can also create a URL link to virtually anything. So let's say this excerpt in the workspace, I can copy a link to this as well, and let's say paste that into Word. I can even click the three dots here and copy a link to this project as a whole, and then paste that into Word or something of that sort. So virtually everything in Liquidtext is really, really easy to link to. So finally, let's talk a little bit about these last two features, the AI tools and the definition lookup. So the AI tools is something that's only in beta right now, and it's currently only available on our iPad app. But we are really excited about it. So let's go back to this best practices document that we started with here. You'll remember I read it for a while, and it mentioned that, and I had to spend some time finding who's a good candidate for this medical procedure. Well, wouldn't it be nice if I could just ask the AI? Well, I can just click the text box button here and say /AI. And when I type /AI, I can now ask a question about my documents. And I can say, who is a good candidate for the stem cell regeneration procedure. And when I type my question, you see it says type a question about my documents and press enter. And I can select whether it's going to search just the current document or all my documents for an answer. So this is really handy if I want to scope it very closely to the particular documents I want it to look through. And once I'm ready, I press return. It analyzes my document and gives me an answer. And the best part is the answers that it gives me have links. Each statement that it makes, it links to the particular point in the documents that I selected that support that answer, right? Really, really handy. And the best part is because you have these links, it makes it very easy to validate the AI's answer because as we all know, AI still very much need that human oversight and validation. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about the definition lookup feature. Now this is probably a little bit less useful for folks who are on the litigation side versus the transactional side, but it is something that we think is nice, and we'll just give you a very quick demonstration of it here. So let's say I have this contract that I'm reviewing, and let's just scroll down a little bit, and I'm going through it, and there's a lot of defined terms. One of the really handy things is I can just click the 3 dots here and turn on enable auto linking. And you see all the defined terms are underlined in green. So if I'm wondering what any of them is, let's say proprietary information, I just click it and I got a pop-up with the definition. And one of the great things is if the definition has other definitions, I can click those and you get a pop-up with those definitions as well. So it's really nice. Now, if let's say proprietary information is important, I know it's going to come up a lot as I review this, I can drag this right out into my workspace like that. So I can take the definitions that are most important to me and make sure that they're actually available to me peripherally as I continue to go through the contract. Now, besides just definitions, this feature also works for attachments and annexes, which actually may be more useful for you all. So with that, I will pause there, and I'll note that the definition lookup feature again is it's available in the app broadly, but it's still in beta and it's only available on iOS right now. Okay. So before I continue, just a couple other things I'm going to show you. Are there any questions about that before I go on? No? All right. Let's continue then. Okay, so one thing I do want to show you that I can't actually demo live because it involves multiple devices is Liquidtext's real-time synchronization. So like I said, everything I showed you so far is on my iPad. But let's suppose I was working with an iPad and a traditional desktop PC. So here the user has the same project open on her desktop and on her tablet. And you see as she does things on the tablet, they are instantly reflected, or almost instantly reflected on the desktop as well, right? So as she pulls out excerpts, the excerpts appear on the desktop screen. Now this is great because it means that things that make the most sense for a desktop, such as large-scale organization, building outlines, rearranging your notes, she can do on that large, convenient desktop screen. But at the same time, things that make more sense on a tablet, such as freehand inking, she can just do on the tablet. And you see the ink appears within about a second on the desktop as well. So for example, let's say she's doing document comparison, which again makes the most sense on a desktop in many cases. She compares them. When she discovers a connection, she can create an Inklink on the desktop. And then she can just follow it on her iPad. So she can really use the two devices in tandem. The idea is, again, you can use whichever device makes the most sense for each part of your workflow as you go through your project. All right. Now, the last thing I want to point out is that Liquidtext is a really powerful document analysis platform, but we built it in the form of an easy-to-use PDF reader so that it's really easy to get started with it. So I've shown you a lot of powerful features, but in a lot of cases, especially if you're new to Liquidtext, what may make the most sense is just you take the document you need and you just drag it right into Liquidtext as though it was your PDF reader. And you see, once you have the document in there, again, you can just start using it with just a few key interactions and start getting a lot of value out of it. So a lot of the advanced things I showed you are terrific, but really to get started getting a lot of value out of Liquidtext, there's 4 things that you want. You want highlights, you want Inklinks, you want excerpts, and you want notes. So we went through all these, but I'll just show you again very viscerally here. So for example, if we see something important, we can just select it and highlight it, just as you would in a traditional PDF reader. Second, we of course talked about excerpts quite a bit. If you see something you want to bring into your notes, just drag it out right into your notes like that. And of course, wherever you are, you can always click the arrow to get right back to it. For your own notes, you can say, let's say I write this with ink. Needs review. I can simply draw a line, an ink link directly to what I want to review. And you see it creates that ink link right there. And wherever I am, I can simply click to get right back to it. And of course, finally, I can create my own text box and type a little bit more neatly. Needs review as well. Of course, same thing. I can create that ink link to connect them. So again, the idea is just really starting with these concepts of just excerpts, writing in the workspace, and creating ink links is enough to really start getting a lot of value out of Liquidtext. So with all that, let me pause and take any questions.
Yeah, so we have a number of questions that have come through. We'll just work through those. First one is, how do you draw arrows and circles, etc., using a desktop with a mouse rather than a touch screen?
Well, on a desktop, if you want to draw a circle per se, so you're going to still need to use your mouse for that. But the arrows, let me emphasize that the ink links, as you see, they all kind of look like arrows. Those don't actually need to look like arrows by any means. Even just using a traditional mouse, as I am right now. Oops. You can simply just draw a line, and that'll work as well. If you're referring to sort of the predefined shapes like arrows and circles and squares, we don't have that yet, but that's something we're probably going to be adding very soon.
Right. Can you export handwritten notes, i.e. done with an Apple Pen, to Word?
Let's see. If you know, we don't have a way of exporting those to Word right now. You can export those, of course, as a PDF and as an image. Now, I'll note that on iOS, the system can automatically convert your handwriting into a text. That's built into iOS now, so that's actually pretty straightforward. But if you want to export your handwritten notes to Word, that you would want to go through the PDF route there.
The next one is, can you use Liquidtext on all forms of files, e.g. Word, PowerPoint, PDF, etc.?
Yeah, so Liquidtext, so I'll say no, not all forms, but all those forms, yes. So Liquidtext works natively with PDFs, and it has built-in converters for PowerPoint files and Word files and web pages and images.
Great. Will annotations from PDF Expert or other programs come across if I've already highlighted a PDF document in a matter?
Yes.
Great. The next one is, can you only use it on Apple products, or are Android tablets okay as well?
Android is not supported yet, but it is on our roadmap. Right now, we run on iPad, Mac, and Windows PCs. But again, Android is on the roadmap, hopefully in the near future.
Right. With replace document, does it work if there are not additional pages, but instead just say a new page number added to the bottom of the existing pages?
Yeah, if there's just small changes in the existing pages, as long as they look pretty much the same, then it should be fine. If let's say let's say you have a large continuous document and someone adds a few paragraphs in the middle, and so everything moves around and changes, then it's not really designed for that. But as long as the pages stay mostly the same looking, then it should be okay and be able to do the mapping correctly.
The next one is, I am waiting on Remarkable 3 to hit the market. Will Liquidtext interact with Remarkable 2 or 3?
The remarkable tablets. Liquidtext does not have support for the remarkable tablets. Again, right now we run on iOS and Windows tablets, but not remarkable tablets.
Great, thank you. Next question is, does Liquidtext offer ongoing online training?
Absolutely, especially if you're interested in getting ongoing training for your firm. Let's talk.
Thank you. Next one is, while I work predominantly online, I still like to go to court with a hard copy of my key argument. Can you generate a simple print view of the workspace?
Yeah, of course. Do we have one? Yeah, we have a workspace here. So this one's a little bit messy, but let's say we just move our notes around a little bit. And then we go to send PDF. And let's go take a look at that, bring that into Adobe. And there you are. Sorry, Adobe is showing things I don't understand, but here we are. Yes, so here you are. You have your workspace right in Adobe. And one of the great things is that the excerpts, things that you pull out in the PDF export of the workspace actually link to the original, or can link to the original documents as long as you've included them in that PDF. So for example, this diagram I pulled out, if I click it, it'll actually take me to the original of this diagram a few pages down in the PDF.
Thank you. When you drag and drop files into the app, where are they being stored? On our usual server or the app server? If the latter, where are those servers?
So we have a few options there. So when you drag things into the app, assuming the app that you have so there's a few things that happen. The first is a copy is kept inside the app itself, in the app's own folder. This is necessary for offline caching and things like that. Assuming you're using our web service, which we certainly recommend, then yes, a copy of the document is sent to our servers. Now, by default, our servers are located in the US, but we have options for, we have quite a few options around that if you like. So especially for firms, we can do things like setting up an on-premise version of our server just for your firm. We've done this with several government agencies and firms and things of that nature. We also can set up a custom Azure instance for your firm in the geography that you like. So we have a lot of flexibility there. Definitely reach out to us and we can talk.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. Is there a way to organize the bookmarks in a hierarchy?
Bookmarks, actually, right now, we do not have hierarchical. We spoke with our users about that, and it seemed like most folks did not want that, and so we didn't include it. But that said, we're very happy to include that as a future feature if folks are interested. So definitely let me know if that would be important. What I'll say is, if your outline already has, let's say, a table of contents that's hierarchical, the bookmarks will fit into that hierarchy, but you can't make bookmarks that are children of other bookmarks. But again, if that's something important, just let us know.
We've got two that are kind of linked here. Just a second. How does the program manage large documents, e.g. thousands of pages?
Yeah, thousands shouldn't be a problem at all. That's not really a large document for us. If you get into like 10,000 pages, that's a larger document, but even those it should do very well with. No, the program is designed to handle very, very large documents and very large collections. I'll say there are some documents that are formatted or compressed in such a way that they can actually stress the system a little bit, but it's generally not, it's not so much number of pages as more the way the document is constructed or how it was compressed. So if you run into any problems, let us know, but generally you should be fine even with 10,000 page documents or far more than that.
Right, and sort of linked to that one, can you break large PDF documents into smaller PDFs using Liquidtext?
It's a great question. No, we don't have that feature just yet, but it's a hot one. A lot of folks are asking for it, so it's on a short list of things to add soon.
Yep. Will there be a word processor-based workspace, something like Textbox but bigger or longer?
Yeah, that's something we're very interested in working more on. So the way the the way the text boxes work, they will expand indefinitely. So as you keep typing, they'll keep getting bigger. But we understand that I understand what the questionnaire is asking about. You want something where the text box basically becomes the workspace and more formatting tools and things like that. And yeah, we absolutely are on the same page. That's probably more a next year feature, but we're very much looking forward to adding that. But I will emphasize that in the meantime, the text boxes are actually pretty flexible and can deal with formatting and are going to be getting even more flexible soon.
Right, so this one is from a current Liquidtext user. Many of my briefs come in huge PDFs, which are then added to over time. When I import multiple versions to a project, Liquidtext often gets overloaded and crashes. A year or so ago, I tried replacing the outdated version of the PDF, but my markups and links didn't transfer reliably. Has this feature been improved?
I hope so. Let's say that does the user or does the individual specify what platform they're using? Windows, iPad, Mac?
No, they didn't specify, but I'll see if that comes through in the chat. iPad.
Yeah. iPad, okay. So I would say definitely reach out to our technical support, to our customer service. In some cases, if you run into problems, again, it shouldn't really be the number of pages in the document, but it could be something else about the document. And it might be something that we can fix if it's maybe triggering some kind of a bug or a memory issue. Definitely reach out to our customer support. We'll try to get that fixed for you right away. Likewise, if you said you did a document replacement and it wasn't working right, again, document replacement is statistical. It's using computer vision to try to figure out the right page matching. So if there's any problem that you're seeing there, definitely reach out to us. If at all possible, give us a copy of the documents where it's not working, and that'll be enormously helpful in helping our engineering teams to figure out what's going wrong there. If you guys don't already know, you can always contact our customer support just by clicking the little question button here and clicking on Contact Us. And you can also just contact support@liquidtext.net.
Right, thank you. Just a couple more here.
Please.
How do you convert handwriting to type?
So if you've already done the handwriting, then that's not really an option. We don't support that right now. What is supported is built into the Apple operating system itself. You can of course just directly write with your Apple Pen once you when you have my iPad is attached here. Let me see if I can demonstrate this for you. Okay. I think I need to switch to a different mode to demonstrate this properly, but yes, the built-in, I kind of turned it off, but built into iOS, you can just handwrite directly on the screen once you have the text box open, and it should have no problem with iOS directly converting that into text. If you want to take text that you've already written though, and convert that into text, that unfortunately is not supported just yet.
Thanks for that. Is OCR a facility within the program?
Yes. You can, anytime you have a document, you can just click the three dots. Oops, needs to be a document, not a bookmark here. Go to a document, click the three dots, and you'll see OCR text detection. And you have a bunch of different options there. You can turn on instant OCR. You can do the full document OCR, which enables you to search it. And one of the things the app will do is if it sees you brought in a document that it thinks is scanned, it'll just bring up a dialog box straight away asking you if you'd like to run OCR.
Excellent. And the last question that we've got here is I've tried the link to defined terms, but it hasn't picked up links that I was hoping it would, such as links between exhibit references in an affidavit to the exhibits themselves. Is there any way to configure it or teach it what links to create?
Well, like I'll say, this is definitely a beta feature. And this is part of why it's in beta, because there's a lot of nuances around getting the link analysis correctly or done correctly. I would ask you to please contact our customer support and include, if you can, include those documents and tell us where it's falling short. We want to make new updates to this regularly, and your feedback will definitely help. But to answer your question, there are ways to configure it. Right, you go to here, and you have a few different options for what types of links it's going to look for. But right now, this is the extent of the configuration. So beyond that, please send it to us, and we can look into it and try to improve it for the next update.
Great, thanks for that. I have a couple
Sure.
of longer questions that I might forward to you after the session, but that's
By all means,
it for
please do.
from the audience.
Please do. All right. Well, in that case, let me say thank you all very much. Again, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all today, and I appreciate the opportunity to show off Liquidtext. As I said, you have you have our email address for support, just support@liquidtext.net. But you're always welcome to email me personally, craig@liquidtext.net, with any specific questions you have or any feature recommendations. By all means, don't hesitate to reach out, and we look forward to continuing the conversation with you all.
That's wonderful, Craig. Thank you very much for taking the time out to show us the platform and for offering extra support there to our members. We'll be in contact if we have any further questions, but thanks again.
We're looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.